computing.
Hello, welcome to episode 130 of Chet and John's reassuringly finite gaming playlist. My name is John Denton, with me as always, Chet Roivas.
Hello.
You know the deal by now, surely. 2 top 10 lists, 10 being the game that we played the least this week, 1 being the game we played the most. It's that easy. Let's go, Chet.
Okay, my number 10 is a game called Colon 3 on, I played it on a Mac. It's a browser game. There's no space between the word colon and the number 3. It's just Colon 3 without a space. This was a listener recommendation, and I clicked on the URL, and you go to the homepage and it says click start. So you click start and some text comes up that says, hey, what's up? And beneath it is an emoticon of some kind, a colon and a 3, hence the title. I don't know what that means. I mean, it looks like a backside with eyeballs. I don't know what a colon and then a 3, what is that? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm fucking old when it comes to that sort of stuff.
I was looking at it, I was like, it doesn't really even look like anything. But yeah, that is clickable. So I clicked that, and then a message come up saying, oh, thanks for being cute. And that was the end.
What?
Yeah, it's not a game. It's a button I pressed. I don't. That's literally what happened. That's all it is. I was briefly contemplating trying to remake it using the website that it was built on, just to prove to myself that talking about it for 2 minutes would be more difficult than actually making it. But that would have been a monumental waste of time. It's not even a doodle. I don't say this lightly. You could have made it quite easily. But yeah, like I said, it's a button. I used to love making buttons when I was a kid. 2 pieces of tin foil, some insulated wiring, and a buzzer. Loved that shit. I actually made a buzzer. Sorry, say that again.
You used to do that?
Yeah, all the time, just for a laugh. But one of the ones that I made located and saved the life of a hamster that got lost under the floorboards of my parents' house.
What?
Yeah, so...
Well, no, I mean, it's okay to explain that. I want to hear it.
What's to explain?
You made a button and then it saved a hamster's life under a floorboard. Do I need more?
Okay, what you do is you take 2 pieces of tin foil and you put one. God, my God, this is going to be this is the easiest thing. It's the first thing you learn in not home economics, the other one.
Economics?
Oh my God, no, woodwork.
Yeah.
An insulated wire. One goes to one piece of foil. When they touch, a buzzer goes off at the other end. Mm-hmm. And a hamster got loose under the house, so I made two massive sheets of foil. I basically made a big one of those. He walked on it. We went out and jumped out and grabbed him, and that was the end of that. It's very boring.
I think that's probably the highlight of your life in terms of ingenuity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a very proud moment. But I was going to say, hopefully one day, Colon 3 saves a hamster's life. Although it's not going to happen. Don't even search for it. It's just a button. It's not a game. It can't even really be played. It's wank.
This podcast got onto a very strange start.
Yeah.
You're just such an unpractical person. I can't believe you created like an electronic system to save an animal.
It's the first thing they tell you in that class, and it's the only thing that stuck. So I took to it. I jumped in with both feet.
And so did the hamster.
Keeping it there.
Okay, I can't follow that, but I will try. My number 10 is a game called Velvet Sundown, a game that you told me to play, and a game that I need to give more time. I put it on today. You told me to play it on my Mac, but unfortunately it has too many graphics for my Mac, so I had to stick it on the PC. I sat in the lobby for nearly 15 minutes trying to get a full complement of players. Ended up managing to finally get 4 people to do the free episode this week, which is called Burning Seas or something like that. I can't even remember what it's called. But I don't think it's the one you were talking about last week.
No, it's not.
I jumped in, very confused by the whole thing, because you said not to do the tutorial, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. I think I maybe should have done the tutorial because I didn't have a fucking clue what was going on, even if the tutorial might have been painful. I was a woman. It told me that I needed to do something to do with the corporation and also find a nylon thong or something like that. And I just immediately, I was like, this really, really feels like a weird, like Second Life area that I don't want to be involved with. Walk around this boat using the Resident Evil 1 tank controls. Some guy in a fucking hat and glasses comes up to me and suggests we go and talk in another room. Again, starts getting creepy. So I just kind of walk down these stairs with him, and then the guy just fucking tasers me in the neck. And
What?
I fell down. He tasered me in the neck, and I fell down, and then got back up. And then I said, "What did you do that for?" And he just said, "For fun." And so I just turned it off. It was weird. It was a very weird experience. I'll give it another go because everything you said about it sounded interesting, but all my alarm bells were going off as this is just not a situation I wanted to be involved with at all. I'll do the tutorial next time I play and hopefully it'll make a bit more sense. But a very weird, creepy, and slightly unpleasant experience.
I had no idea that any of the characters could have weapons on them. That's a completely new thing to me.
It really threw me by surprise because he said, let's go down here away from like prying ears or something. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what's going on, but that's an interesting setup. And he just tasered me right in the neck.
What?
Fucker. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'd be interested to know what you think of the tutorial and if it's in any way different on PC than it was on Mac. I'll talk about this in a little minute, actually. I'll talk about it in... it's a bit higher on my list because I went back and did the scenario, whatever it was, Burning Water,
okay.
Or whatever the fuck it was called. But yeah, my number 9 is actually... it's Hyrule Warriors on the Nintendo Wii U. This should have been higher on my list, I suppose, but I wasn't actually going to mention it at all because... I realised at the very last minute that something that was on my list was something that I couldn't actually talk about, so I had to take it off, hence why this is here. I don't have anything to say really because I've played it for about 15 minutes. I'm not the biggest fan of Dynasty Warriors and games like that. I don't dislike them. I don't think they're bad games, but I've played 3 or 4 of them and the appeal wore off each time very, very quickly. And my favourite of that genre, or subgenre, or whatever you want to call it, by far is something called 99 Nights 2. Which connoisseurs or just everyone kind of regards to be one of the worst examples of that genre. So I'm not an expert on Dynasty Warriors by any means, but this is much more inviting. And my first quarter of an hour was pretty enjoyable, but we'll see how it holds up after a few more hours. So I'll talk about it next week.
That's out this week, right?
It's out tomorrow or today if you're listening on Friday. So yeah.
Okay. My number 9 was a game you told me to play again. It's a game called Delta on Xbox 360, X-Split game. You said it would be right up my street, and it absolutely is. The kind of combination of Rare-Z, vector graphics, like you said, that kind of ambient soundtrack, and the super hexagon-y, almost endless runner style to it. It's just like a combination of all the things that I like. And I dug it straight away. Fast, hypnotic, works in time with the music. You're just flying through these triangles, or the delta from the Greek alphabet, I guess. Moving in a similar way to... It's like a game where you have to move in between things. I can't remember what it is. It doesn't matter. Very, very simple game. Moving into the screen, moving a cursor through these triangles, trying not to hit stuff. Obstacles. The further you get, I think you can unlock higher beats per minute tracks, but I didn't manage to do that. I really dug it. It was £2 when I bought it, but it definitely seemed worth it, and it's really my style of game. The only problem is it's on a console that I just don't have hooked in at the moment. I still have my 360 and do play it, but it's not like... My TV's boring. It's boring. My TV's only got 2 HDMI slots, so I just keep the next gen consoles hooked into it. I just want it on a PS4 or Xbox One, really. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's just there and something that I could stick on for 10 minutes here and there. But it's like, I'm realistically going to hook up the Xbox every single time I want to play that for 5-10 minutes. Probably not, unfortunately, which is just a shame because it's nothing. That has nothing to do with the game at all. That's just my boring life.
I'm kind of in a similar boat. I'd like to see it on other formats, but I think there was some, because the guy that made it, most of his games either debut on PC or they go to PC eventually. And I saw him having a conversation on Twitter about the fact that this was really hard to get onto PC for some reason, and it's a real shame that something so good has come out of the XSplit wasn't popular at the height of its prevalence, and now it's very few people are going to find that game, but. It's a shame. I hope that he's able to do something else with it because it's really, I love it. I really do.
Very stylish, very accomplished, fun. It really did that thing to my eyes though that the games like that do. I couldn't play it for too long because it just made me feel like I was in a dream, not in a good dream.
Okay, a nightmare you might say.
Not a nightmare, just like a bad, like a medium dream.
Okay. Okay, well, I suppose that's why it's good that it's so small, so you can do it. The games tend to last a very short period of time because it's all randomly generated. So,
good stuff.
It is very good stuff. Okay, my number 8 is also very good stuff. It's The Last of Us Remastered on the PlayStation 4.
Nice.
I didn't play any of the campaign. I went round to a friend's house and he was playing multiplayer, and he's very quietly become quite obsessed by it, and I was really impressed. Have you played much of it?
I've still never played the multiplayer on that game.
I don't know whether... I assume it's the same as the one that was on PS3, which I also didn't play, but this was really good. It's only 4v4, it's very, very fast-paced, but it's a proper stealth multiplayer game. Attempts at making games that sort of fit that description have almost always been failures, and here you're stuck in the sort of compelling loop where you can expose your position if you run or if you attack, or you perform these supreme executions, I think that's what they were called. It's when you down an enemy and then you go it's like a Gears head stomp.
Oh yeah.
But you're open to attacks because they're really long-winded, but you also get more currency, those little gears, for performing them. The perk system seems really balanced. Teamwork was just absolutely mandatory. I was just kind of blown away. I mean, Naughty Dog appear to have made the crafting and the stealth elements work in the context of a multiplayer shooter, as well as they did in the campaign, and it felt just completely marvellous for the brief time that I played it. Like sort of Gears of War with a bit of an IQ boost, and you can't hide behind cover with a shotgun, which is 90% of Gears of War. Yeah. I love Gears of War, but that's the game. Because with the right perk, you can see through walls, as Joel can in the campaign. And you have to constantly move out of the shadows to collect ammo and stay permanently crouched if you don't want to make any noise, etc. Yeah, I was so impressed. I could get bang into it, and maybe one day I will. I don't know if it has a solid community on PS4, but it definitely deserves one. I was expecting something run of the mill, because you always do when it's such a great single player game. They rarely have fantastic multiplayer.
Yeah, especially a game like that.
Yeah, I didn't think they could make it work, and maybe they haven't. I literally had, I think I had 2 rounds, but it was really, really after the time that I played it, probably just over half an hour, I'd say. I'm like, wow, I could get if I ever get hold of that, I'm going to invest some real time in it.
Yeah, I do need to check it out at some point and go back and bash through the rest of that game on PS4 because it's such a lovely version. It's such an amazing game.
Yeah, damn right.
Still on PS4 then, for my number 8, it's Knack.
Yikes.
It's only a bit of Knack. As I've talked about in the past few weeks, my son, my little boy, is banging into games now. Seemingly, in the space of a couple of weeks, he's just gone from not having any interest whatsoever to obsessively watching me play Mario Kart and Mario World, and now he just wants to play them all himself. I knew it was only a matter of time. And out of all the games that I have on the big consoles, this is the game that he finds easiest to play on easy mode. Because for the large majority of the beginning of the game, you're just walking around punching things. And as a kid, it's like a proper, very, very young kid's game. It does work quite well. It's still too hard. He's on like the 3rd world now, and it's really quite stupidly tricky, I have to say. But he doesn't seem to mind. He just keeps going back in and bashing people up. And I've always said this about this game, as crap as it is, the animation and feeling of connecting with the punches on the bad guys is really good and satisfying. And it's still the case, and he enjoys it. I've had to do odd bits for him here and there, which is why it's on my list, because technically I have played it. And I still really like that aspect of the game. The responsiveness between pressing the button and the punch coming out is instant, and it's oddly satisfying for what is a pretty shitty game. But he absolutely loves it. He loves it.
So, but to him, there's not a great deal of difference between that and Mario.
He can't play Mario. It's too complicated. Like jumping over gaps and things like that is. Ask me in 3 weeks, I'm sure he'll be able to do it. It's ridiculous the pace he's picking up these things, but yeah, right now just he loves bashing things up anyway, like everything, his room, humans, anything. So yeah, a game where some weird triangle-y type thing does it is it's all brightly coloured. Yeah, he thinks it's great, but yeah, it'll be something else next week, I'm sure. Yeah,
good. Well, I hope so, because that game's rubbish.
Yeah, but it's alright, isn't it? I never hated it as much as you do.
Yeah, I've got no love for that game at all. My number 7 is the aforementioned Velvet Sundown. If I don't think we mentioned, it's the social RPG, I think they call it, where you're on a cruise ship and you take on roles and chat to people in order to uncover. Last week, in order to uncover which one of you is a murderer. But there is a new free scenario, as John said, and it doesn't work at all. Your experience is not a million miles away from mine.
Okay.
But I think this game's future lies in recreating that murder scenario, because that was just a perfect fit. More than anything, because it was just so completely uncomplicated. Currently, this new scenario is really convoluted and completely unsatisfying, and some really, really, really lame gameplay system have been implemented. Really fucking lame. As soon as I logged into the game, the chat window that sits on the main menu on the left was just a list of people saying, "What the fuck? I don't get it. This sucks. WTF?" All that stuff. But I managed to jump into the game quite quickly. And the blurb came up, and I was supposed to be playing as some Greenpeace demonstrator, and I was in cahoots with some oil company, and some other oil company were trying to snuff me out. And in order to snuff people out on this ship, you have to find out if they've got a transmitter on them, and you have a transmitter that's tied to the oil company you're in cahoots with.
Right.
So you can scan people, and they can choose. They see that they're being scanned, and they can choose to either reveal their identities to you or hide them from you. And in theory, that might work, because you'd be suspicious of people who refuse to reveal their identity for the whole game. But you can give your transmitter away. Someone handed me a transmitter, so I took it, and I had one for each oil company, so I could pretend to be one or the other or neither. But I was just like, why is this system even in the game? If the whole point is to force people to rely solely on their instincts and the conversations they have, then why have it in the game in the first place? It's just it's a smokescreen that, hands down, kind of ruins the game, because it introduces a system that's useless. It's a really confusing decision, that one. But the people I played with were gamely playing along until the very last second, and then we all got thrown into that chat room, and we all just shrugged and said, "I don't know what the fuck was going on." There, I had to get signatures to say that I was going to stop people wailing or something. I don't know. I mean, the game works beautifully when it's really streamlined, and attempting to make it complex like this is just complete. Yeah, it's a failure. I snuck a peek, incidentally, after I played at the murder lobby, because that scenario has gone back to being premium.
Yeah.
And it was completely empty. The whole premium thing is absolutely the wrong payment model for this, because the ideal audience for this game aren't really gamers, traditionally, I'd say. Because this would go down an absolute storm with older people especially. I mean, stick it on iOS, add adverts with an option to cancel them for a small fee, and then you're laughing, sprint to the bank. Yeah. Play around with the characters, different backstory details, but it should always involve a murder. That's what I reckon. And rather to make it sort of overly complicated, these just pointless new gameplay scenarios, get it on tablets, on phones. It could be a phenomenon. If it was a murder mystery thing, this whole... All of this new scenario just did not work for me at all. I thought it was lame. Well,
it's good to hear that my bafflement wasn't entirely unfounded or founded or whatever. Because I didn't have a fucking clue what was going on. I read that text at the beginning about 3 or 4 times, and that could have been written in any language, and I wouldn't know what I'm supposed to do or what's happening. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I'll just hang tight, and if they do ever reintroduce the murder one for free, then I'll jump back on it. That's the beauty of it. That's all we need to know is who killed someone. That's it. It's so much simpler. All of this fucking find out this, it just doesn't work. Yeah, I had like a case with money in it, and I didn't know what was happening. Yeah, and then you can give that to someone, and then that someone else can use it to accuse someone. But it doesn't make no sense. Yeah. All right, very very simple game then for my number 7. It's a game called Iron Fisticle on PC. Oh yeah. This is a new game from Curve, who are an incredibly prolific English team who do a lot of ports of other people's indie games, but they do their own stuff as well. I think they did the Stealth Bastard or Stealth Inc. A couple of other things, that Mousecraft game, and then this is the new game from those guys. It is a top-down / isometric twin-stick shooter, basically, with random dungeons. Super, super simple. You've seen it a million times before, but I have to say it's done very well here, with a bunch of kind of elegant systems that you've seen before, but executed with panache, one of your favourite words. You're a little knight. He gets dropped into a dungeon with a bunch of zombies. You can shoot in 8 directions. You're throwing axes at first. You kill enemies, and they drop like food, and you can pick that all up. The you can combo picking up the power-ups. No, they're not power-ups. You can combo picking up the drops or whatever, and then so you can get that up to 8 times, so you get points for every single one. The more points you get, you start to level up, so you can have a permanent increase to your health or something like that, or a permanent new type of power-up that's going to drop in the world for when you restart, because it's a permadeath game.
Yeah.
And apart from that, it's just killing everything in the room, grabbing the key, moving to the next room. Good music, nice style, has a really nice spawning animation of all things. When new enemies come, the Iron Fisticle is actually it's like the smart bomb move. You collect new ones as you fight. So you have like multiple versions. It kind of stops the game for a second and drops a giant Iron Fist. And I mean, Iron Fisticle is a really weird name, I think, because it sort of brings to mind fisting and testicles, which is I don't know why it's called that, but so be it. It's
Soviet?
No, not Soviet.
Oh, Soviet. Okay, sorry.
This is it's the benchmark for this genre in this style in terms of random dungeons as well, and permadeath is clearly The Binding of Isaac, which is a far superior game to this in many ways, but it's hard to pick faults in this game, apart from the fact it just probably gets a bit too repetitive too quickly, but nothing about it is a letdown, or nothing about it is irritating. It just plays nicely. There's a little dash move that you can use that is on a cooldown meter. It's a good game. That's about it. It's just a really good, solid game. I think it would be a really good fit for an instant-on type console like a PlayStation Vita. You could play one round of it and then move on to something else every day, but maybe it will end up on one of those consoles. I wouldn't be surprised, seeing Curve has done shitloads of PlayStation games before. Good stuff, not going to change the world, but it's the type of thing I'd be fucking proud of myself if I'd managed to make it, put it that way.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it's out now, is it?
Yeah, it's out now. Yeah, really good, and it's nice. I know early access is its own thing, and there's all sorts of different reasons, but it's kind of nice to just play a game like this. It's just done. This is the game. Here's the game that we tried to make, and it feels polished and play tested, and it's just a good, solid, fun video game. Very old fashioned, but everything's done really well.
Okay, fair play. It's only PC though at the moment.
Yeah, it's only PC. Well, maybe Mac. I'm not sure, but it's only Steam at the moment. So. Hopefully, it just seems like a great fit for Vita. Just a really good, cheaper game to have on your Vita or a PS Pluser. And yeah, just a good thing that you could have a couple of rounds, 10, 20 minutes, and move on to something else, and then do it again the next day.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, well, I'm on my number 6, and our 6s and 5s, I believe, are the same.
I believe they are, yes.
Okay, well, I mean, there's the 2 football demos that are out, so should we do FIFA first?
Makes sense, yeah. I'd say that's the one I played ever so slightly less. I don't know, actually. It doesn't matter.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. The FIFA 15 demo, I've been playing on the Xbox One version. Went in with sort of a sense of apathy after anyone who's listened to the podcast a lot recently will know that we're very disappointed in FIFA 14 and have been not shy on our words about that. But so I kind of went in with a sense of apathy for FIFA 15. I had played it previously at Gamescom. I had fun playing that game, but I didn't really see the innovations that were promised beyond some cutscenes. Went in with this sense of apathy, and straight away the demo drops you into a title decider between Liverpool and Man City. And within about 20 minutes, I started to think, this is actually it does feel quite a lot better than FIFA 14. It's way more responsive, and the dribbling is way better. So that's one of the big talking points this year. But I was enjoying moving around players and defenders in ways that you've not really been able to do in FIFA ever, really, especially against the AI. And the more I played it, I was like, actually, this is pretty cool. It's this kind of stuff that I've liked about FIFA, like the way that the players move around the pitch and go on runs and things like that. It's always been, it's been good since they rechanged it however many years ago. Rechange isn't the word, but who cares? And I was very disgusted at the fact that it tricked me into making Liverpool win the Premiership, which made me feel kind of sick to my stomach. But I quickly forgave it. And then it's a really generous demo. There's a bunch of teams in there, like Barcelona and Napoli and a couple of others. Chelsea.
You can start Ultimate Team as well. You can dabble around in that for a bit.
Oh, I haven't done that actually. I thought that was just going to be one of those ones you click on and it tells you what it is.
It does, but then you can actually go into it after that.
Oh, that's cool. And the more I've played it, I'm actually really quite impressed by it. I will say, before I go into praise certain elements of it, that the AI that you play against, while it's more fun to play against than normal in FIFA 14 because it doesn't bog down defensively and just make the whole thing a slog, it's totally fucked at the same time, because whenever they get the ball, they just run with it.
Yeah.
And it just looks ludicrous. I hope it's something that they fix. Not that I'll be playing much against AI anyway, but they just run with the ball and dribble incessantly. And if they're 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go, they just run into the corner flag. And it's, okay, that's nice. It's like real life, but it's actually really annoying when you can't get it off them. Yeah. So that kind of thing, I mean, it kind of snaps you out of the reality of it when you're seeing that happen. But more than pleasantly surprised, to be honest. And the main thing that I've liked about the game, apart from the fact that it's more responsive and the dribbling's better, is the fact that the variety in goals is huge compared to previous years. And it's always been the problem that I've had with FIFA. Even when FIFA was at its best, I always thought that was the weakest part of it 3 years ago or whatever. And it's something that I've written it in reviews. I've said these exact words to the people in charge of the game. I'm not trying to say that it's me saying that it's caused any reason, but I kind of am. But I've said this to David Rutter and Nick Shannon in person. The thing that I love about a great goal, any goal, whether it be a scrappy 12-yard toe punt into the bottom corner, or an amazing 15-pass move, or screamer from 30 yards, anything like that, is this kind of snapshot in time. You see, because your goal, you see it, if you're watching football on TV, you'll see the goal 10 times, even straight after it happens. They just replay it and replay it and replay it, and it's all about all the reactions of the other players on the pitch, and even stupid stuff like the way the ball spins and the way the net ripples and the way that the goal scorer reacts straight away. And in FIFA, traditionally, the ball would go in the net and then everybody would you'd have the player-controlled celebration, which always looks stupid. Other players would just stand there looking robotically, or their mouths would just move up and down. And it always just kind of made the whole thing feel a bit, very wooden. And now, I mean, they've really made great strides in very quick amount of time within the space of one game to something that really feels quite good. The celebrations are still player controlled, but the players run off in a realistic way, so that's a great start. If you look at every single player on the pitch, they're doing something that's appropriate when the ball goes in. These are things, but perhaps to many people they shouldn't matter, but it's something that I've always been obsessed with football games, is just capturing the kind of minutiae of what happens on a football pitch that isn't necessarily the ball being passed or kicked or anything like that. And I kind of consider myself like the things that I love about the world, really. I'm kind of obsessed with movement. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but like if you think about all the things that I love, like I love football, I love fighting, I love stupid stuff like wrestling. I love this. It's kind of like the aesthetic side of human movement. I mean, that sounds a bit pretentious, but it's kind of what I'm talking about here with this sort of stuff. And they've talked about it in their pre-release hype about capturing the emotive side of the game. And I kind of did dismiss that as cutscenes at first, but it is kind of a little bit more than that. And what that ultimately leads to, crucially, is what I said before: more variety in goals. And there's way more goalkeeper animations, there's way more shot animations, the ball physics are better, the stuff that happens after the goal. And at least the memorable goals, and that just kind of, I've really enjoyed what I've played so far, because there are goals that I can remember, and plenty of them. I'm still worried because I've watched some Twitch streams of people playing multiplayer, which I've not played at all, and it still seems like a high through ball fest on multi. I've not been having that so much on single player because the defenders seem to be able to stop it. The high through balls don't seem anywhere near as accurate as they are in 14. I'm hoping it doesn't just descend into that bollocks again when you start taking it to online. But so far, quite impressed and pleasantly surprised. So yeah, that's me on FIFA so far.
I mean, I don't have a massive amount to add to what I said after I played the seasons beta. It's still too fast. Lob through balls are not infallible now, but there are still instances where your opponent hoofs it from halfway and your defenders decide to ignore it until it's too late. I mean, that still does happen.
Right, yeah.
And you mentioned it. I do not get. I've played probably 5-6 games of FIFA 15 on the demo version. Your AI, the AI just not passing the ball. A defender will get the ball and run to the other end of the pitch. It's
fucked.
But is it supposed to illustrate something? It's just. Is it fucking annoying programming, or is it an attempt to show people that it's easier to keep control of the ball or something? Because I've played FIFA 15 against real people on the season's beta, and that is just not fucking true. It feels like a stunt. Like, hey, look what you can do, but you can't really.
Yeah, I really don't know. It's very weird.
Yeah,
but it's on every difficulty on the demo as well, and
really?
Everybody's talking about it. So whether that ends up in the final game, I don't know. I'd be surprised if it does, but because it's never, it's like it's bizarre.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, on this evidence, going to be a better game than FIFA 14. The defending is improved. I never felt completely hopeless or pinned down. You sometimes feel completely helpless in FIFA 14. The presentation is much improved. It's very, very sleek, but that's a pointless thing to point out. But I still think that these games need a refresh, because a few years ago, every new FIFA game came out and it kind of endangered the formula. Like, when they introduced tactical defending, which a lot of people hated at first, they're not shaking things up anymore. New cutscenes, new stadiums, a few slight tweaks. But unless you're fanatical about football, this feels more like a patch than any new football game ever has done, to me anyway. It's almost certainly going to be good, but it's probably just me. Maybe I'm expecting too much from it. It's good, but I remember the days when FIFA used to be exciting every year, and it's just not that anymore.
Yeah, I don't really disagree with that. And the small things that they've changed, they've redone the keepers, and they are a lot better. But a lot of what they're doing is just moving in a more realistic way, in a more believable way for someone who is obsessed with football, like I am.
Yeah.
But they're still saving the ball as they did before. So, but it just looks better now. So yeah, these aren't huge things. They're huge things to me, but I'm kind of weird in that, like as I was explaining. But yeah, but at least I'm way less apathetic towards it now. I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, well, I'm going to play it, and I'm hoping that it's the problem with all sports games, as we've said a million times, is that you can't really assess them fairly until you've played them for a year.
No, you really can't.
But what about Pro Evo then?
Pro Evo, so again, playing the demo, Konami done a cracking job on this one, sending out a press release announcing that the demo is coming out on Wednesday this week. Wednesday comes and they go, oh, sorry, the demo's delayed in Europe and America till, we'll announce it later today. Still no announcement. But for some reason, it was out in Asia. So managed to create a Hong Kong account on the PlayStation, which took like 2 minutes. It's an absolute piece of piss to do it. If you want to play this demo, do it yourself. It's super easy. It's even easier than doing the US one. And then you can download the demo. It's actually the winning 11, 15, whatever demo, but still it's PES 2015. And yeah, I absolutely love it. It's all that stuff that I was talking about loving in FIFA 15 about the movement and the snapshots. I mean, that has been a staple of this series since the 90s, and it's better than ever here. But it's barely worth talking about because that's just what you expect from Pro Evo. But what they have done this year, I mean, I like 14 a lot, but you'd be hard pressed to say that it was a responsive game compared to Pro Evo in its heyday, because it wasn't. This is way, way, way more responsive, and that allows for a much more free-flowing and reactive game of football than 14's, where you had to be a lot more premeditative in what you were, or your moves and what you were trying to do. This version looks amazing. From a distance, it looks great. Close up, though, the player models there's something else. I tweeted something stupid earlier that the most next-gen thing I've seen so far is not Mars in Destiny, it's not Chicago in Watch Dogs, it's fucking Luis Suarez's teeth in the PES 2015 demo. But I don't understand how they've managed to get his horrible teeth so perfect. But there's close-ups on... Well, Higuain looks amazing for Napoli. Like, they just look amazing, and you can see from a distance as well. And I must say, FIFA did this more so than in previous years. You can recognise key players from a distance, but here it's just like you're playing with Bayern Munich, for example, and Robben just runs completely like Robben, and Ribery just moves like Ribery. It's amazing stuff, really. It took me a couple of games, I must say, to get going after FIFA, because FIFA's it's so easy to just ping the ball about in FIFA, and it's a little bit harder here. And if you don't play it as it should be played, it can occasionally look a little bit scruffy, I think, because there's a button to control the ball, and yes, you can control the ball without pressing that button, but it's never quite as smooth. But after a couple of games, I started to get into the flow of it. Also noticed that you can crank up the difficulty and extend the time of the match on the demo, which I'd recommend doing if you're au fait with these games. And then I just started to really, really get into it. Scored some truly brilliant, memorable goals, including like an amazing lob with Lewandowski for Bayern Munich, which I should have saved really, because it just the whole situation of that lob just looked incredible. Every single player's reaction. The fucking player who scored it started celebrating well before the ball even went in the goal. So I don't even know how they programmed that. That was amazing. And it's going to be a real fight this year because PES is just, I mean, you'd be hard pressed. Like PES 14 I love, but I could see how someone could pick that up and it was a bit unresponsive and had some weird foibles and they just go, nah, I'm just going to play FIFA. But I could be hard pressed to any FIFA player to pick this up and not be impressed by how good it looks and how nice it is to play. So it's going to be a real fight this year. I'm on Team PES, but FIFA is a real pleasant surprise, and it's kind of nice that there's 2 months between them, so you don't have to choose on the day which one you're going to play. Yeah,
I liked Pro Evo 15 from the second I started playing it. I mean, visually, Pro Evo and FIFA this year, they look about as good as each other, just in completely different ways.
Yeah.
I love the passing. Losing possession in FIFA, especially FIFA 14, just felt like you were at the behest of a series of algorithms. Whereas when I fluffed the pass on this demo, it was because I was being way too ambitious or I wasn't being observant enough. And I still love that the corners and the free kicks have that little mid-air string of beads. It's just more rewarding than shooting in the dark like you do in FIFA, which is only mastered after you've played it for a long time. I do see the value in both ways of doing it, but I just prefer knowing that a new player can execute something brilliant straight away, because the onus is on your creativity, not how long you've played the game for. I had several really enjoyable games, but 2 of them were 0-0 draws. And I've started to think that people really do like FIFA because it's often a relentless goal fest. I'm not sure about 15 yet, obviously, but FIFA 14 certainly was, and I think that's something that people are going to be expecting. I actually played FIFA 14 on co-op seasons mode with a friend of ours over the weekend, and he's by far the biggest FIFA fanatic I know. And yet, for the first time, he was starting to come around to my way of thinking. I was hurling abuse at the game and like predicting scores, and he was starting to come around. There was one game we scored just after half time, and I said, watch this. Our opponent will equalise in the 90th minute. I've seen it 400 times. We'll just lose possession inexplicably. We won't win anything in the air, and all of a sudden he'll lob through ball it into the box. Our defenders will run the other way, and we'll look like schmucks. That exact thing happened, and he was starting to realise what I've been saying all of this time is completely true. But then after that we had another game, and afterwards he said, now that is why I love FIFA. That's why FIFA's the best. That's why FIFA will never be topped. And it was a 6-5 PSG versus PSG, quote, very much unquote, thriller with at least 4 headers from corners from that gargantuan Swede. I was just like, no. But that's what I think people really want now. They like the fact that games can turn into that, the flip of a coin. You can have a game that's 6-5. I mean, so I don't know if Pro Evo's got much of a chance because it doesn't offer that. It's not trying to push your buttons the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few 0-0s on there that have been thoroughly enjoyable, and you get the sense that, again, for someone that watches a decent amount of football, like if you pick Barcelona as your opponents, they play like Barcelona in Pro Evo, and they have done for a few years. They play completely differently to how Real Madrid play, whereas in FIFA 14, certainly, every team basically plays the same, and they have different levels of players that are capable of doing those things. Like Real Madrid are very, very good at collecting those long through balls and doing impossible things, whereas other teams less so, but the teams have less of an identity and a personality. But I think it is really quite something. But we shall see. It's going to be a good year, I think, for football games, though. Really good year.
If somehow Konami don't throw a spanner into the works.
Yeah, I mean this whole demo thing's a concern straight away, and it could just be unplayable online day one, like last year's was, and therefore, I mean that's the way I'm going to play these games. So if it is, then that's that, really.
Do you think that they withheld the demo from other regions because there's no commentary? Because it's very very odd playing a football game with no commentators over the top.
They've released them like that before with no commentary, so I don't think it's that. I honestly don't know. Why release a press release the day before saying it's coming out? I didn't even know it was coming out until I got that press release in my inbox.
Jesus.
I don't know. But then again, Konami have had this really amazing day today, or yesterday, the last 2 days at TGS, that they've put out this Metal Gear trailer and the Silent Hill trailer and like another one as well, and everybody's all pumped for them. So who knows? Who knows what the fuck is going on with that company?
Well, yeah, fingers crossed. I did notice what you said. I mean, I don't watch a lot of football, but
No.
Old Iron Robin, he does when someone's sort of coming to try and take the ball off him. He does that thing where he kind of holds his arms out and does little tippy toes. He did that was really like, whoa, God, that looks like the fucking guy. I mean,
there's loads of that of the famous players in the game. Loads of them have little things that they do in real life.
Yeah, well, that was really impressive to see. But God knows how deep that's going to be or how many players it's going to cover. But we'll see.
It's very cool though.
Yeah, it is. No doubt.
Cool. Right, where are we at now?
Well, it's my number 4, which I assume is on your list as well. It's Forza Horizon 2.
It is indeed. Yeah, it's my number 4. So
okay.
That works.
All right, go on then.
Okay, so another demo. It's been a great week for demos. Another very generous demo as well.
Yeah.
On Xbox One. This kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't even realise, and suddenly Twitter just said, the Xbox Twitter just said, "Oh, the Forza Horizon 2 demo's out." And what a demo it is. My goodness. I'd played this already at Gamescom and was blown away by it. And the demo has only helped to reinforce that. And in fact, probably improve on my opinion even more somehow. First thing to say, it is essentially basically the same game as Forza Horizon 1, taken from Colorado and put into both the south of France and northern Italy, I think is where it's set. So kind of familiar locations for a lot of people. Probably, if you've ever been to those regions or any other similar European regions, you kind of know what to expect, like winding coastal roads and sort of fields and shit. But it looks incredible. I mean, it looks absolutely amazing, 1080p, all that sort of stuff. But I mean, Forza Horizon 1 on Xbox 360 was a damn fine-looking game, but this is just taken to a genuine extreme, and it kicks off in such a brilliant way. The last game kicked off in a brilliant way. It kicks off is basically playing the same trick again. Here's a supercar. Here's a bunch of other supercars. Come on, let's all casually race in these amazing cars with pumping tunes to this festival. Before that, like in a stark contrast to Jeremy Clarkson in the traditional Forza games, talking absolute bollocks into your ears and making me want to turn the machine off. This starts with what could have been a kind of off-putting, awkward and annoying intro of a woman basically just talking about the excitement of this Horizon festival. But I don't know, it kind of worked for me. It's real footage, and it just they managed. It was quite well written little. It's only probably 20-30 seconds long, if that. It was quite a well written little monologue about the sensation of being at a festival and the music and the lights and the cars, and I don't know, just it worked for me. And then you're straight into a supercar going through this coastal road, and it looks beautiful. It's like, wow. And then it comes in there. I love how confident they are as well. This Playground Digital, who the English studio that makes this game, they've come at a Playground Digital event, they call the game. It's like, it takes some balls to come out and talk like that, like a Spike Lee joint, a Robert Rodriguez flick, is it? If you're not going to call it a game, you're going to call it something else. But it just comes from a place of confidence, and very much earned confidence in this case. And then the demo itself is like, pick one of the less impressive cars of the game and just do a couple of events and drive about, do these things called a bucket list, where there's going to be these cool challenges laid out across the map. The one in the game is I think it's a Bugatti that you get to drive, very briefly. I think that's right. Isn't it Koenigsegg or something? I think it might be Koenigsegg.
I don't know what car it is, but it just says drive this ridiculous car like you just stole it.
Yeah, and the handling of the cars is amazing. I'm no car expert by any stretch of the imagination, but much like Horizon 1, it's this kind of heavy, weighty, physics-based but arcadey handling that feels incredible on the joypad. And it's the only game of any racing game ever that I play in a cockpit view, just because it seems to work so nicely. And with the analog rumble in the triggers as well. Fantastic. What a demo. Ends brilliantly, where this guy who's like He's kind of annoying, but he's just a guy that's like running the festival, and he talks to you and tells you what you're going to do. He's fine. And he says, right, we're all going to Nice now. And they keep talking about, right, we're going to Nice. And I'm like, I want to go to Nice. And then it just brings up all the options to buy the game. And I'm like, well played. Well played. I was going to buy it anyway, but that's, yeah, nice, as you could say.
Yeah. It's. I'm very, very, very much looking forward to it. It is every inch the sequel to the first Forza Horizon, which was just... anyone who's not aware, the Horizon games are not like the main Forza games at all, really. They've kind of taken the core tenets of Burnout, aside from the boosting, because you're rewarded and you level up by getting near misses, airtime, drafting and drifting and stuff, and you can chain them all together, etc. Like the first one, it's a game that's I owes a huge debt to Criterion. But not just in terms of the gameplay, because Criterion games have this kind of ever so slightly unhip, but really relentlessly upbeat and enthusiastic, almost kind of hippie-ish, kind of teenage. I don't know, teenage. It's the kind of TV shows that America makes really well, aimed at a very specific demographic of like very, very young teenagers. They're very moral, they're very trendy, but I don't know. It's very appealing. It's the preserve of so much pop culture, but for some reason, as it did for you, it just works in the context of a driving game. I don't quite know why. It's still got loads of really superfluous goofball characters. Some of them are apparently going to be yammering in your ear throughout, which is too early to say if that's going to be annoying. It never annoyed me in the first game, so it's very possible that it won't do that here. Those bucket list challenges have real potential to be quite ridiculous, so I hope they take that and run with it. But these are games to get completely lost in, and I don't just mean sort of getting obsessive about stats and achievements and all that stuff. It just has such a great sense of place about it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to sort of lose a weekend to sort of this ridiculous festival populated by people who I might in the real world find insufferable, but just in the game when you're in this, when you're in this world, it's just everything's kind of hippie-ish and kind of like appropriate for children, whilst at the kind of having a weird edginess. I don't know. It's a very, very weird world they've created, but it's very Criterion. Like you said, the demo is very generous and very entertaining. I'm not interested in cars at all, and I don't love many car games, but the original was a classic. So just try the demo. If you have an Xbox One, just try the demo, even if you can't really stand driving games.
I just remembered that one of the events it does offer in this demo is the race against the Red Arrows.
Oh, that's ridiculous as well, yeah.
And the sound of them coming over is fantastic, yeah. Point-to-point race where you're racing in a car against, the Horizon display team, as they're called. They did similar things in the first game, but it was never as cool as this.
But that's another trick that Criterion really good. I remember talking about Hot Pursuit, the way they pump up the volume of the music in the background, and then roaring choppers will fly over and stuff. It's very. I mean, it feels like a Criterion game crossed with something that the creators would have made. But I really can't wait. It's going to be an absolute cracker on the evidence of the demo.
And it's only 2 weeks away.
Yeah, can't wait.
Awesome. Okay, where the hell are we now? This is confusing me.
That was both of our number 4s.
Okay. So is it me or you?
Well, it's me. But was that your number? Was that your number 4 then?
It was my number 4. Yeah.
It was. Okay. Well, my number 3 won't. I'll be brief. My number 3 is KickBeat Special Edition.
Okay.
You've played KickBeat, haven't you?
This is where you're the little martial arts guy and you kick in time to the music. Yeah,
it's a rhythm action game, Bimani. Most people will have played it when it came out on Vita and PS3. I think it was PS3 as well. Last year, I think. I can't remember if I played the demo on Vita. I think I did, but it can't have made much of an impression because this felt quite new to me when I played it on. I played the Xbox One version. It's out on PS4 and Wii U as well.
Okay.
If I did forget that I played it, I wouldn't be surprised because this is not the most memorable game in history. First up, I'm getting tired of lambasting tutorials, but I really would advise people to skip it. But you can't really. You need that information. But it's just the kind of annoying thing that takes 15 minutes to tell you things that even a child could learn in 1 minute. And a terribly antiquated thing that if it was possible to skip, I'd tell everybody who plays it to skip that. You're a guy called Lee, you're standing in a circle, enemies attack by stepping on a button that's also a button on your pad. When the button surges with light, you press that button and you collect chi by playing well, and after a while you earn chi power, which is basically star power from Guitar Hero. It multiplies your score while it's active. And you need to double tap the button if the enemy has a power-up floating above their heads. And it's thoroughly okay. The main problem is that the music is just not good at all. It's mainly a mix of kind of new metal and very cheesy trance. There's other sort of genres, I suppose, but by and large, it's kind of very, very outdated new metal and, yeah, club music from about 10 years ago. Because the button presses map to elements of the song at random, so sometimes they go to the drums, sometimes to the vocals, you have to either watch the very busy screen looking for flashes and playing Monkey See, Monkey Do, basically, or learn each song and learn each level. And it's just, I don't know, on hard, it's really fucking hard to see what's going on because you're not only looking at these enemies pacing around, you're waiting for the light cue that you need to follow and watching the buttons which can be masked by the henchmen walking around. Some of the background visuals are bright and colourful and kind of frenetic as well, so it's way too disorientating for its own good sometimes. And in particular, there's one huge issue which didn't stop becoming a problem. The difference between two enemies stepping up to be hit at the same time and stepping up as a quick 1-2 is the difference between that is so much smaller than it should be in a game this slight. I mean, that's a hell of a thing to train your eyes to see in a game as slight as this one. You really need to put the hours in if you want to master it. But then again, I suppose you could say that of any game in history. When it works, it's totally reasonable entertainment. But some of the songs just feel like they're asking to be played 4 or 5 times before you can even think about completing them on the harder difficulty settings. But when it does work, when you're doing like a drum solo or a bridge or a breakdown of a song, when you know where you are and what you're doing, it does offer a little bit of that rush that you get from great rhythm action games. But that does not happen anywhere near often enough for me to be recommending it, really. But it's not bad. It's hard to dislike because it's an example of a genre that's kind of rather scarce these days. But it's a genre that's hard to compete with at the same time because pound for pound, I reckon, as a genre, rhythm action games have more masterpieces than anything else. I mean, this cannot compete with even mid-tier games in its genre. But that said, it's really not bad. Try the demo, and you may deem it to be worth a few quid. But it's okay.
I never really got on with the demo. I was slightly disappointed by it, and I remember the music being terrible.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. I mean, if you're not enjoying the music, what's the fucking point in playing it?
Completely. And it never really felt like what I was doing was really connected to the music in a meaningful way.
Exactly. So it will randomly start following the vocals, and you're still listening for drum beats and stuff, and you end up just watching the screen for prompts and them covered. I don't know. Yeah, it was disappointing, but it did have. There were flashes where I did think this is enjoyable, but I wouldn't recommend it. I think it's about 10 quid, and that's for this now. 5.8, yeah, take a punt on it, but no, 10 quid is just a bit too much.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, then my number 3 is a game I will not talk about it very much because I've spoken about it way too much recently. It's Velocity 2X, still working through, just racking up perfects into the 30s now. Just keeps getting better and better. It's like two games. It's like two games. Well, it's two games in one because it's two genres, but then it's kind of two games kind of stacked on top of each other. The first time through is its own game, and it's a great game, and you could finish there and be thoroughly satisfied with your purchase or PS Plus download. But going back through for Perfect is its own game. Every single level takes on a completely new personality, reveals new nuance, new intricacy to the design, and I will not be surprised to be continually amazed by it as I move through the 30s into the 40s towards the last level. I don't know how it's going to take me to get these perfects on every level. They're starting to be like almost half an hour per level now because they are quite hard, but every time just feels like you're working. It doesn't feel like an all or nothing every single time on a level. It feels like you're working towards getting that perfect, and then you're finally going to get to the position where you've learnt the level enough and you know what you're doing enough that you can move and try for the perfect runs a few times, and then eventually you manage to get it a genuine masterpiece, and that's enough about that game for now.
I haven't had the chance to play it this week, but you've got 30 perfects.
Yeah.
Shit, I need to catch up on that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because it's worth doing. Really, I mean, I don't advocate doing that kind of thing ever, really, on any games, but this ain't that. It ain't the same thing.
No, you're very right. Well, I'll do that.
Definitely
as soon as possible. Excuse me. My number 2 is a game called Flockers on the PlayStation 4. It's available also. It's a PC game. I think it came through Steam Greenlight. I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't listen to a word I've just said. It's out. Yeah, it's out on PC and PS4. It's been talked of as a kind of spiritual successor to Lemmings.
Yes, I knew I'd heard of this.
Yeah, it's made by Team 17, who make the Worms games, but it is just Lemmings. It contains sheep instead of lemmings, and the tools are different, but it's Lemmings. I mean, the unfortunate thing is that it's nowhere near as good as Lemmings in any department, really. The interface is still the same with the classic floating toolbar. That just still makes it a very, very awkward fit for consoles. Flockers, I don't know where to begin really, because there's so much wrong. But first off, perfectionists are going to need to be very careful, because this is a game in which not only are you supposed to lose the sheep that you're trying to save, sometimes you have to lose them. There are also random traps that trigger just whenever they feel like it. So initially you only need to get a single survivor to reach the end of the level to progress, but there's no real compulsion to go back and try again, because random shit just happens that kills your sheep, which would be, if you're somebody who's a perfectionist, that's going to frustrate you. And God Almighty, it's really irritating on PS4. It's not a great port. For starters, sheep noises constantly blare out of the DualShock, and you can't turn that off. You can turn off sound effects, but they turn off the sound effects in the game, and the sheep are still yelling out of your pad. You have to go into the system settings and turn off the DualShock, which is just rather stupid. In terms of the gameplay, you can't select things on your toolbar with your cursor, which I didn't stop attempting to do that. You know, you move your little cursor along, you try to select something, it doesn't work. You can only use the trigger buttons to scroll left and right, and that was a massive problem for me, because from the first second I started playing it till the last, I kept going to the toolbar as you would with the mouse and clicking on it. The R1 and L1 never started to feel intuitive at all. It's because this is a PC game, and it is very pleasing to see a game like this launch on console almost day and date with the PC version. This is not a good port, really, at all. And the game is just way too complicated. It's needlessly complicated from the very second it begins. You're doing levels that feel like they belong at the halfway point of a game and not at the start of one. You're not eased into learning how the game actually functions so much as shoved, and then they slam the door behind you. You can lose the cursor, if you move because the camera and the cursor are separately, so you can be looking at something with the cursor, and if you move the camera to watch something happen, and you need your cursor again quickly, that's not made easy for you, because the fast zoom is locked to your cursor, so you're trying to find out where the cursor is, and you're zooming in and out, and I don't know, that again, these are problems that didn't just bother me for the first hour, they bothered me for as long as I played the game. So I mean, when you bounce between 3 or 4 different groups of sheep that you're trying to save, you drag the cursor over to each one, and then you can't execute anything with the speed that's demanded of you, because you have to move everything. I don't know, this is a really confused game, and it's incredibly frustrating, profoundly frustrating. I played it with my girlfriend, and we failed levels without knowing why we failed them, and we completed levels without knowing how we did it at all. It's just completely at odds with itself. I don't know, I'm getting really tired of games like this, because its creators don't appear to know who their audience is. I have no idea who this game's for. It's really difficult from the get-go, but it's cartoony and filled with cute sheep. Cute in inverted commas. It looks like the perfect thing for young kids, but it's really, really rock hard. It's also got that whole iOS 3 gold star thing, so your granny can even understand it, but large parts of it are locked off until you earn enough stars to progress. Locked off again. You're also always doing things, at least 2 things or 3 things at once, which just feels wrong again. It's just like, is this a laid-back puzzle game, or is it a really aggressive, almost action game, hardcore? I don't know, it's just a bad fit. It's a really, really frustrating and unsatisfying and unrewarding game. It's just a terrible shame, because who doesn't want more lemmings? It's really worn me down. It's just like, it just seems like it was assembled very, very quickly, and some really poor choices were made. I don't know. It's my girlfriend and I played it, and we really tried to get some enjoyment out of it, but it's just so frustrating. The game, I don't know what it is. I don't know who it's for. It's very weird. It's a very weird game and annoying.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw it announced and saw the screenshots and stuff, it didn't look like anything I'd like. And I loved Lemmings back in the day, back on my Amiga, but I don't want to play it anymore, especially not an inferior version involving sheep.
But it's not really the. I don't know what they were going for. It seems like a Lemming. It doesn't actually. You know what? It never seems like a Lemmings. Like it owes anything to Lemmings because it's. I don't even know what this game was, and I played it for hours and hours. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it is.
That's never a good thing.
No, it's I just whatever.
Yeah. Okay. My number 2 then is Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate on PlayStation 4. Now this is the like the director's cut type version of Warriors Orochi 3, a game that I played on Wii U when the Wii U was launched, which I think is nearly 2 years ago now, which is slightly shocking. Obviously the third game in the Warriors Orochi series, which is itself a spin-off of the everlasting Dynasty Warriors series, which has been around since the dawn of time and seems to release a new game about every 2 months.
Yeah.
Regular listeners to this show will know that I am not a huge fan of these games, but their seemingly ridiculous popularity among people whose opinions that I respect has made me try and look at them in a slightly more positive light than I used to. Made easier by the fact that this is clearly the most technically accomplished technically accomplished Warriors game that I've played, thanks to the heft of the PS4, meaning that it kind of looks like a mid-range PS3 game. Warriors Orochi 3 is a much dafter version of these types of games than many. It's involving big mythical creatures and fantasy more than the Chinese dynasty and all that sort of stuff, which is what the other ones are all about. So instantly it's a bit more appealing to me than the other ones. But the gameplay is the same. Run into a group of a million identical dudes, kick them all up in the air, switch to another guy, that's the game. Go to the red dot on the map, kill everyone, and do that until the end of the level. And there's always stuff on the screen and different ways of leveling up and new weapons, and there's a blacksmith here and a kind of hub world. There's all this stuff that's complicated, and I'm sure that people who really like these games will get into all these systems. But for the life of me, I can't see what difference it makes, because all you need to do is just run and hit the square button and you just smack everyone up. But I've had more fun in this version of this one, because the Warriors Orochi 3 on Wii U, when the Wii U launched, was a technical mess. It had terrible frame rate issues. It was a dog to play, and I didn't enjoy it at all. Whereas this is a super, super smooth frame rate. You still get some pop-in and stuff like that, but the vastness of the armies that you're taking on actually feels impressive for once. It don't look great because they're just kind of facing in any old direction. They're just cut and paste models, but they're not popping in 2 inches in front of you like all those other games. So it actually looks like you're wading into a giant, massive bodies, and you don't have to kind of suspend your disbelief that much. So there's that degree of fun to be had in that. One of the systems in this game, which I would be lying if I knew was in another game, but I'm pretty sure it's just specific to this game, is that you can kind of chain you have a team of 3, but you can chain swapping between them if you press the swap button exactly as you hit.
Oh. So
you create this like quite satisfying chain, and every single time it is accompanied by a flash of light and a more powerful move. And so you're doing that. I'm not 100% sure if that's what you're supposed to do, but it seemed to be more powerful and looked cool and made a cool sound effect. So I'm pretty sure that is what you're supposed to do. There was mention of it in a text box, but the text was written in that kind of Japanese-ish that basically makes no sense. It had some button commands in it, but quite what it meant, I'm not sure. But the button commands allowed this to happen. So, yeah, I did a good few hours of the game getting through it like this. I didn't not enjoy myself, which is another way of saying I enjoyed myself. But I'm certainly no convert. It's not. I'm not going to be that guy. This is the most open-minded I've ever been about these games, and certainly the most I've ever enjoyed one of these games. It's been raved about by certain quarters. I understand that. I think clearly it's one of the best ones of this series for those of that inclination. Do I recommend it to those that have never played one of these games before? Probably not. Not to someone who's not played the games before. More, do I recommend it to people who've played these games before and not dug them? Probably not. But I'd be hard pressed to say that I enjoyed what I enjoyed. My speech is brilliant. I enjoyed what I played of Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate, which I never thought that I would do. But I'm still no Dynasty Warriors guy.
Nor am I. I don't dislike them. I mean, I just think that they get very boring quite quickly. I mean, I know that there is there are strategy games to a degree because you're always sort of clearing certain pathways and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I have to say it's only aesthetics, but the Zelda one that I started on, I think that's probably going to be a bit more appealing. So we'll see. I'll talk about that next week. But I don't think I'm going to be jumping into whatever the hell that game's called that you just... Is it? It's an official offshoot, of course, is it?
It is official, yeah. It's made by those guys that make those games. And I mean, there's millions of them, aren't there? There's the Gundam ones and obviously Hyrule. And then there's the Dynasty Warriors Empires, which is like the more strategy-based ones. Oh, God knows. An infinite series that will never go away.
Somewhere in the world there is a child who got bought one of those games once and hated it so much he cried for a week, and then his parents always go up to try and find something vaguely similar but not the same, and they just end up bringing him more offshoots. I feel sorry for that child, but play it a bit more, child. They're not that bad.
Yeah, you might like it. This one's good.
Good.
Ish.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's not like a good game. Don't get me wrong.
Is it not? Okay.
Well, not to me.
Okay.
But people love them.
People do love them, and I don't think they're terrible. That's fine. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, our number ones are the same then, aren't they?
Of course they are. Of course they are. Well, Destiny.
Yeah.
Shall I go?
Go ahead.
I didn't really get a chance to last week because I hadn't played very much. I played a good chunk now. Good old chunk. On Mars in the story, a few levels to go. Done a selection of strikes. Done some patrols, done some stories, done some Crucible, done everything to know that I absolutely love Destiny. Helped by the fact that I've gone in armed with some of the knowledge that you brought last week in terms of the difficulties it brings upon itself in terms of being matched with people of different levels, some of the awkwardness, some of the lack of explanation, certainly the dog shit story, which thankfully is barely there. So it's not like it's making you sit through Metal Gear length cutscenes constantly between every mission. There are a couple, but I just kind of laughed through them for the minute they were. None of that stuff was a problem for me at all, really. Most importantly of all, that combat is like... Well, I was about to say it's like nothing else, but of course it is. It's like Halo, but Halo done better than it's ever been done before. You texted me during the week about a mission that you and the guys you're playing with, our mutual friends, on Venus, a mission where you battle through an area, then open out into a huge ravine where there's a spaceship, and you can kind of see right down into all the guys below, and you can snipe from above, and then people can go and charge in, and then you storm a ship and fight a boss. That level is it's absolutely the music and everything. It is an outstanding level, the types of which that have been hallmarks of Bungie's levels for years. This is on I'd say a grander scale than anything that they've done before, but not hugely so. There's been stuff like this in the Halo games on a slightly smaller scale. People have complained, I've read, about a lack of set pieces in these games. I don't know what they're expecting. And yes, there are no tank levels or anything like that, but that to me is a set piece. That it's a scenario, it's an environment that encourages a certain type of gameplay. It's married to this amazing music and sense of the story might be crap, but there's still an incredible sense of import and place that Bungie create through their atmospherics, through the sound design, through the combat design, through the soundtrack itself, through the enemy design, through everything that you're doing. And that, when combined with other people, when you're playing tactically together, I think it's incredible. I think truly like some of the most outstanding first-person shooter gameplay experiences I've had ever in terms of like campaigny type stuff, not PvP. The more I play, the more I'm wrapping my head around its systems. The more I'm wrapping my head around the leveling up, and just started to understand the different, like the relevance of the color of your weapon compared to the shield of certain enemies. I don't know if you've had much experience with that.
No, I don't think so.
So certain enemies have certain color shields, and they can be massively damaged by weapons of the same color. So, like I've got a purple grenade, a vortex grenade for my warlock character. It's already sounding quite nerdy, but that's just the way this game is. And certain enemies have a purple shield as opposed to an orange shield, or I think like a white shield as well as one of them. And so my purple grenade will do massive damage to that shield. So it's about picking the right weapons, making sure the right person. Dave had an orange grenade. I was playing with Dave Turner from Joypod fame, sometimes this podcast fame and general fame, and I had this purple grenade. And this is at its most simplest. I hear it gets more complicated, more intricate as you get a bit further into the high level stuff. But I'd be the guy that needed to clear out the guy with the purple shield, and they would back me up, and vice versa. It was like a nice introduction to that system, which is like an not explained layered on system that doesn't happen until you get we're sort of pushing towards the level 20 now. And there seems to be a bunch more systems that are layered on top of that for once you get to level 20 that I've been reading about that make no sense to me right now. I kind of like the fact that none of it's hugely explained, but people seem to be getting their heads around it anyway. At first it was a bit daunting, and I don't think the game opens particularly well, especially as we played that first level so much in the beta and alpha, so you lose some of that wow factor. But now I'm just completely on board. Dave and I finished Venus and moved to Mars in the story last night, I believe we were playing, and that first Mars mission, oh man, the enemy that you face, the music again, just like proper Bungie, and they're not like other people. You need to imagine reviewing that game after one day.
Yeah.
And saying it was boring. Fine. If you think it's boring, fine. I'm sorry. I just feel sorry for you. I said that before. I can't even wrap my head around how you could possibly find a game that outstanding. Boring, but I can feel that this is going to be a game that I play for ages. And I mean ages, like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, because it feels like there's so much for me to do. And even when I'm doing the same things over and over again, it still feels fresh. There are problems. It's confusing. Some of the stuff with difficulty is a bit all over the place. I find a lot of it in the single player was too easy, then you'd ramp it up and it would be too hard. The way that the difficulties settings work is very, very confusing. I'll explain them to you in a minute, because I know that you've been confused by them, and probably if we both are, I'm sure other people have been as well. It is a bit repetitive, as I said. The story's kind of crap. It is basically a game of go here, shove Peter Dinklage in a hole, shoot the enemies that come because that happened. People are talking sometimes, none of it makes any sense. There's a lot of jargon. I couldn't possibly praise it. It just doesn't get in the way enough for me to bother me. But overall, I always knew I was going to love it. I loved the beta. I loved just spending ages on my own, walking around in the patrol missions on the beta. So I knew, even with low review scores, that I knew I was going to love the game, and love it. I do. I'm just blown away by it, and I just can't wait to get back on. To be honest, and can't wait for DLC. I'm just going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure. I've done 30 hours plus at least, and you just, like you said, you can't dismiss that combat. It's that good. All of my issues. I mean, initially I thought, for example, one thing that I thought, the heavy weapons overkill. You don't need them, but you boy oh boy, you do need them.
Oh yeah.
Shotguns are really wimpy. I mean, I've found some really, really heavy duty shotguns, and they're just, I don't know. When you consider that Bungie created arguably the most distinctive and devastating shotgun ever, the fact that shotguns that's all we talk about. We're like, has anyone got a shotgun? No, I don't equip them because they're rubbish. I haven't found a good shotgun. That's a very weird thing.
I've been using a beast shotgun pretty much the whole time I've been playing. It's always been slightly over-leveled for where I've been, ones that I've had. You
just always use a shotgun though, don't you?
No, that's not really true. But
if it's a shooter, you would always plump for a shotgun.
But that's not true in Call of Duty or Battlefield or...
Isn't it? I'm sure it's true in Battlefield.
No, definitely not in Battlefield. No, I never use a shotty in any of those games, but I did Titanfall and this, yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're a shotgun devotee, but I thought none of us that are playing have found a decent shotgun, which I thought was very odd. The game is very... People haven't said this enough. I mean, there have been random kicks that you encounter, but for a game this size, it's up and running, and it's been very, very stable so far. Mm-hmm. There are the odd problems, but I mean, they're fleeting, and for a game like this, that's quite something. I do continue to like the fact that loot is not too prevalent or difficult to find. I think that's a positive rather than a negative. Some people don't like that, but I like the fact that you're not constantly searching every nook and cranny for loot, and there's only little bits and pieces of it. But the thing that defines Destiny is that you really need to be up for faffing. That's the key. You have to be keen to faff around a little bit, because I've been capturing video of us playing Destiny for our YouTube channel, but only half of it is usable, if that, because you're dicking around in menus and you're redoing old missions to clear bounties, etc., etc. And actually, something I didn't think I'd say, but after playing it for as long as I have, those bullet sponge bosses are not really as annoying as they were at first.
No, not at all.
Because they're not as mindless as I first thought they were, because you have to study them, and you have to study the environment, and you have to study the enemy spawn points, and you have to coordinate the right weaponry, the right equipment, the right specials, even the right classes in some cases. It's work, it's planning, but you cannot beat it when you execute a rock-hard strike mission almost perfectly. You really can't. And that's where the game starts to really resemble an MMO, because I don't play MMO games, and I've always found them kind of funny. I mean, even that Leroy Jenkins clip, when they stop before a boss and they're like, I'm going to do some number crunching here. I'm like, what are you doing? But now I completely understand, because we sound exactly like that before a mission. Has everyone got that? That's we're talking like that. And assessing the situation takes almost as long as being in the situation, so you have to be up for that. I think that's what, when people talk about getting bored, I think they're not really delving deep into the systems enough, and that's fair enough. But I mean, I think that's where the bulk of the interest is going to lie in the long run, definitely. Once you start moving around the planets, the Venus story missions are absolutely unbelievable. I think I said to you, the 20-minute thing we just did is better than anything that's ever happened in any Halo. And it was. I mean, it's not something that will happen to everyone. I just decided to stand back on this cliff and snipe as my friends went down, and I was directing them as they were getting flanked. And then when they ran into like a wall of enemies, I jumped off, glided down, and then did my special. I mean, it was an amazing 25 minutes of a game. I mean, just truly like nothing else, really. But there are still problems. I mean, the thing is, I'm playing with two people, and we've made a pledge not to use our characters that we use together elsewhere. And for a lot of people, that would mean completing the game in 2026. Because if you're all only playing together, only when you're all available, that's going to take some time. And the fact that it's 3 players only it can be really fucking annoying. I went on last night, and I had 3 friends, and they were all in the game. So I went into the Crucible for a bit, which is 10 times better with friends. And then I just kind of sloped off because I couldn't play the fucking game I bought, because it's only for 3. I can't really get too pissed off about it, because that's, I knew that going in. Before I forget, have you seen this weird bug? I don't know if this is a bug or whether the game actually can't render fast enough, but when you turn after you've been running, it's unbelievable. It's like you've got elastic bands around you. You can't turn very quickly. I mean, everyone on Xbox One's noticed it. Maybe it's exclusive to that format.
I just thought that was part of the design.
Oh, you do? Really?
Yeah, to stop you running around too much, and I just thought that was the way the game controlled. Yeah.
It sucks if you're running down caves to get to a boss or to get to something, and then they're there and you can't. I mean, you can't turn around really. I assumed it was a bug with the game. And then I thought maybe it wasn't technically able to allow you to turn that quick, but you can do it when you've not been running. I don't know. It's a weird. We're pretty united in the belief that that's a very weird decision to have made, because, pinning you to the ground and making you turn at 1 millimeter an hour is just very, very frustrating. But the game it's tremendous, and it's the first real attempt to try and make a multiplayer shooter that's not competitive, that potentially is going to have the same kind of life as a Call of Duty or a Battlefield. Because my friends who are really into it are just like, give it time, we're waiting for this, we're waiting for that. Even DLC aside, there's going to be new stuff, hopefully, being brought into this for quite some time yet. So
it does seem that way.
Yeah, I'm loving it to bits.
Yeah, me too. Me too, indeed. I finally wrapped my head around the difficulty settings. Like I said, I'll just briefly go over what they are. Every single story mission in the game, once you select it, next to the select destination little box on your orbit screen, comes up a second box, and it'll normally just say normal. You can hit that and then choose a harder difficulty, which will vary in how it's described: hard, very hard, impossible, it might say. But it's bizarre. Those words are just a guide from the game, like your mate telling you how hard they think it's going to be for you based on your level compared to what you're about to come up with and based on your gear and stuff. Whereas they're all actually consistently the heroic difficulty setting. So even though it might say very hard, or the mission that you're doing might say hard or easy or something, they're one is one set of level of enemies and volume of enemies, and the other is the one up from that. David and I had been playing most of it on the standard and finding it too easy, so we ramped up the last Venus mission to the harder setting, and it said it was going to be very hard, but and it was exactly like playing Halo on somewhere between heroic and legendary. It wasn't as impossible as legendary can be, especially on the later Halos. I'd say it's around it was properly hard. You couldn't make mistakes. We needed full tactics. Hard enemies felt like a genuine challenge, and the boss at the end was serious, but we managed to get through it, and it was utterly thrilling. We were in constant communication. Most of the game we'd just been making gags to each other and not really been paying attention, having a lot of fun, but all that stopped. It was all concentration, talking about exactly where we were in relation to the enemies, exactly the sniper's down, all that kind of stuff. This was happening naturally, and it just made the game to me what it should be, and I would highly recommend to people playing. The strikes are kind of like that anyway. They're kind of set up to be that difficult, but if you're finding the story missions a bit of a trudge, then just ramp that difficulty up and make sure you're playing with at least one other person, because then that's when Bungie games have always supposed to be played on the harder difficulty levels, right? So why does that change now? It doesn't. That's why the strike missions are amazing, and that's clearly, I think they're too hard to do that on your own if you're playing solo, to ramp up the difficulty like that, unless you're over leveled. And there are it's different here because it all depends on what level that you are. Obviously, if you're already level 24 and you're going back and doing missions on the moon, it doesn't matter if you ramp it up to the harder difficulty level, you're still going to walk it. So it's relevant to where you are, but man, it was night and day how much better doing it on that difficulty was compared to the other difficulty. It felt like almost a different game, and we'd been enjoying it, but this was like constantly surviving by the skin of your teeth, doing like amazing acts of heroism to save each other, and the last minute I'll glide over him as he's on his last shield and shoot my special into a crowd of enemies, and then just moments and moments and moments and moments like that constantly for the whole 35 or 40 minutes the mission took. And that's what it's all about. You can't get that in other games because it doesn't fucking exist, because nobody's good enough to make it like that.
Yeah, you're probably right. The difficulty thing's a bit of a mystery to me, because whenever we click on a mission, it has a suggested mission, and I don't ever recall there being a way to change it in the menus. And we've always felt challenged. I mean, as we've leveled up together, we've always felt that the normal was initially very difficult. Hard was, the very hard ones that we're doing now feel like they're of the level we should be playing against. So I don't know. It's a weird one. I'm going to look into that, because I maybe it's something I've done differently. I don't know. There's never been an option to change the difficulty, I swear.
Yeah,
maybe...
100% is. I promise you there is. You click the mission on the map, and then you go back to where your ship is floating in orbit, and where where it says set destination in the bottom left. Next to it will have the mission difficulty, and you just click on that and you can move it, you can change it down.
Alright, okay, well I'll look into it, but I don't remember seeing it, but we'll see.
What do you mean we'll see? It's there.
I'm sure it's not. I'm gonna check footage that I've captured in about 5 minutes and just to double check, because I've never heard it.
It's not on the strikes, but it's on the stories.
The two people that I'm playing with are like, they've already got two characters at 20 and they're going through again, and they're pretty much encyclopedias of this game already. They have never talked about changing the difficulty. I don't know. It seems like something's wrong here, but I'll look into it anyway. It's all good.
It's all good. Destiny's all good.
Destiny is all good. It's all good. But yeah, that is us done. So thank you very much for listening to all that. As usual, check us out on Twitter at Chet Rovers, at John Dinton, at Chet and Johns, and YouTube, Chet and Johns on YouTube. Facebook, not a great amount of point. We put some stuff up there occasionally that you can get elsewhere. But yeah, that's it. We'll be back next week. Thanks very much for listening. Keep it real.
Keep it real, always.
There's the supply compound. How did they find it? Yes!